𝐜𝐡𝐚𝐤 never intended to become a YouTuber on the side of being a pro volleyball player, let alone drag 𝐜𝐴 into his chaotic corner of the internet, yet somehow, after years of snide remarks, questionable content ideas, and a little too much shared vulnerability, they'd become something of a phenomenon. 𝐜𝐴's channel, famous for its outrageous challenges and biting humor, also had 𝐜𝐴 begrudgingly along for the ride, and he had somehow become the channel's unofficial co-star and guinea pig. It started innocently enough, a few appearances here and there, lending a hand when 𝐜𝐴's concepts required an extra set of arms, but the audience quickly latched onto their dynamic. They loved 𝐜𝐴's sharp wit and dry sarcasm just as much as they adored 𝐜𝐴's gruff, reluctant participation and surprisingly soft edges. The comments were always the same. Couple goals: I wish I had someone to banter with like this. When are you guys getting married? Parasocial weirdos. 𝐜𝐴 would scoff, but 𝐜𝐴 knew he secretly ate it up. Still, if anyone had told 𝐜𝐴 he'd one day find himself blindfolded in their bedroom, wearing a fox eye mask while 𝐜𝐴 smeared absurdly flavored chapstick on his lips for a video, he would have laughed in their face. And yet, here they were. The idea for the video came to 𝐜𝐴 on a whim, like most of his harebrained schemes. Spotting a bacon-flavored lip balm at a convenience store, he couldn't resist the absurdity. A few late-night Amazon searches later, and he had a collection of chapsticks ranging from mundane, vanilla, to utterly ridiculous, cough syrup. All he needed was 𝐜𝐴, and a camera to capture every mortifying second. Since then he had been ordering strange flavors, along with the more simple ones just to be easy on 𝐜𝐴, and voila. All he needed to do was rope his boyfriend into kissing him, multiple times, in front of thousands of people. 𝐜𝐴 had protested, of course he always did, but 𝐜𝐴 had a way of getting what he wanted, whether through persistence, bribery, or sheer exasperation. Come on, Omi. 𝐜𝐴 had coaxed, waving the gaudy blindfold in his hand. Think of the views, think of the fans. What fans? The same ones who call me a sea urchin in the comments? You are a sea urchin. I hate you. No, you don't. Now shut up and pucker up. And so, with more grumbling than enthusiasm, 𝐜𝐴 found himself seated on the edge of their bed, while 𝐜𝐴 prepared for their latest challenge. The camera was rolling, the chapsticks were lined up neatly on the bedside table, and 𝐜𝐴 was smirking like a cat with a canary. Have I mentioned how much I hate your channel? Today, or just in general? 𝐜𝐴 opens his mouth to talk again, but 𝐜𝐴 places a finger on his lips. Hush now, put the blindfold on. What the fuck? Why do I have to be blindfolded? It's my channel? 𝐜𝐴 grumbles but slips the fox eye mask on anyway. Because it's your channel and I have slight trust issues. 𝐜𝐴 snorts at that. Slight? Ow. Stop pinching. Bitches get stitches. 𝐜𝐴 consoles while smearing on the first chapstick out of 15. He doubts they'll make it through all the flavors, but better to be over-prepared than the alternative. They already filmed the intro in which 𝐜𝐴 tried his best to look like he didn't want to die while 𝐜𝐴 prattled on with his usual, "Hey losers, welcome back to another video." So all that needed to be filmed was the actual challenge itself. I just want to reiterate that I think this is a terrible idea. Who wants to watch two men make out? 𝐜𝐴 grumbles as he shows off the first flavor to the camera lens. Well, nonetheless, we're not making out anyway. You're getting, like, a 3-second limit. What the hell? That's it. That was never established. 𝐜𝐴 barely has any time to react when 𝐜𝐴 pulls him in by the nape of his neck, smashing their lips together before quickly pulling back. I'm supposed to guess based on that. Next time maybe think less about complaining and more about tasting my lips. Can I sniff your lips? What the hell? No? You're supposed to work with me. One more kiss. 𝐜𝐴 rolls his eyes before indulging the giant baby and presses their lips together, gentler this time, letting 𝐜𝐴 hook his top lip over his bottom one. He pulls away after 5 seconds. 𝐜𝐴 can't see the expression 𝐜𝐴 has on his face, but he knew him well enough to know his eyebrows were probably furrowed in deep thought. After a while, he sighs and shrugs his shoulders. Root beer? No, it was cough syrup. 𝐜𝐴 groans. I don't remember buying that flavor. Well, count it anyway. They're like the same thing. In what world are they the same thing? They're both minty. So by your logic, toothpaste and root beer are the same thing too. 𝐜𝐴 grins at that. Why not? 𝐜𝐴 bites his lip trying to keep the smile out of his voice. You're such a moron. 𝐜𝐴 opens his mouth to challenge that, but 𝐜𝐴 has already moved on to the next flavor. The next one is easier, so stop whining. After applying, he flashes the camera the tube of chapstick before smacking his lips audibly, smirking at Etsumu's barely audible gulp. Go slowly this time. Yet. And then Sakusa's lips are on his again and Etsumu clutches the sheets of the bed as he lightly nips at his lips, frowning when Sakusa finally pulls away. Strawberry? Hooray, you got one. Sakusa drawls out, not sounding very impressed. I like that one. Sakusa files that info for later. Chapsticks have more than one use. Next one. Sakusa didn't huff in annoyance, so Etsumu gathers that as he's beginning to enjoy this. They go through the same process again, but Sakusa picks a more complex flavor because he can't stand seeing his boyfriend too content. This time Etsumu feels out his face with his hands, settling either palm on the sides of his face, cradling him like he would a real kiss, and leans forward, somehow miraculously maneuvering his lips onto the others. Instantly, Sakusa realizes this kiss is very different from the others. Etsumu licks into him almost immediately, completely startling Sakusa into gasping, which only deepened the kiss as Etsumu's left hand wandered up to his hair and his right hand crawled down to his waist. Sakusa just clutches on for dear life when Etsumu does something very specific with his tongue while pulling at Sakusa's scalp, and honestly, Sakusa curses internally over how good Etsumu was at this. Wait? Sakusa breaks free from the kiss. Etsumu, the camera, and cuts himself off with a hiss as Etsumu nibbles on that special spot behind his ear. So, let it watch. You kinky bastard. And soon Sakusa can't talk anymore because Etsumu's kissing him again, and his tongue is curled around his and he's doing that thing where he's being delicate and slow, and it drives Sakusa nuts. At some point the mask is pulled off and the chapsticks are thrown to the floor as Etsumu lays Sakusa down on the bed, climbing over him, arms roaming all over him like he cannot get enough of the fleshy cage that is Sakusa. He can't help but ruefully think about how he knew the challenge would eventually end somewhat like this, but he gave Etsumu way too much credit, expecting this behavior after 10 flavors or so, not 3. He threads his fingers into Etsumu's hair and then tugs the other man off his lips, giving him a chance to speak. If we are fucking, we are turning the camera off. We are not making tape. Etsumu's eyes snap open, filled with glee and humor as he lets out a laugh. Not ready to move our career? Oh please, you wouldn't last a day on that site. And what is that supposed to mean? Etsumu pinches his hip and his eyes crinkle at Sakusa's involuntary squeal of laughter. You're the one who ruined my video and gave. Not my fault, you're too easy to rile up. Etsumu doesn't get off, just tucks his face into Sakusa's neck. You're the one who snapped at the third flavor. You tasted good. Sakusa rolls his eyes. Get off me, you lug. No, let's sleep. It's 4 p.m., and we still have to finish the stupid video. Etsumu groans and just holds him tighter, and Sakusa knows better than to fight him, not when he melts into his touch anyway. They weren't always like this. Back when Sakusa's adverse reactions to Etsumu's affectionate advances made up many fights, but by some miracle, they were here, cuddling in their shared bed at 4 p.m., a camera directed straight on them. Cinnamon. Etsumu murmurs after a while. The flavor, was it cinnamon? Sakusa cracks a smile at that. Coca-Cola. Sakusa whispers. So close. How? You wouldn't understand. Etsumu just kisses him instead. By the time the camera stopped rolling, the bed looked like a battlefield of discarded chapsticks, rumpled sheets, and a fox eye mask hanging precariously off the edge. Sakusa sat cross-legged, half-heartedly attempting to clean up while Etsumu sprawled beside him, arms tucked behind his head like he didn't have a care in the world. The lazy grin on his face made it clear he was enjoying himself far more than he'd expected. Sakusa huffed, holding up a half-open tube of something called nacho cheese madness. You're cleaning this up? You ruined our perfectly structured video with your antics. Etsumu cracked open one eye, his smirk deepening. Antics? That's what you're calling it now? You didn't seem to mind my antics when your legs were. Shut up. Sakusa snapped, launching the tube at him. It bounced harmlessly off his shoulder, but Etsumu laughed like he'd won some grand battle. Relax, Omi. Etsumu said, rolling onto his side to face Sakusa. We can edit around it, cut the whole thing out if you want, but... He paused, and there was a softness in his expression now. You should leave some of it in the good parts, at least. Sakusa stared at him for a moment, lips twitching between a frown and a smile. What? Etsumu is reaching out to tug on a loose strand of his hair. You look so cute earlier, admit it. Omi, you had fun. Sakusa swatted his hand away, but the faint pink creeping up his neck betrayed him. Maybe I did. he muttered, busying himself with rearranging the chapsticks into a neat line. But that doesn't mean you're off the hook for being so messy and unorganized. 𝐜𝐴TSUMU chuckled, sitting up and resting his chin on 𝐜𝐴TSUMU's shoulder. You say that like people watch my videos for the aesthetic. They're here for me. Oh, please. 𝐜𝐴TSUMU scoffed, elbowing him lightly. They're here to see me bully you. Same thing. 𝐜𝐴TSUMU said with a grin, kissing his temple before pulling away. With the chapsticks mostly back in their packaging and the camera now off, 𝐜𝐴TSUMU turned his attention to the memory card sitting in the camera slot. I guess we'll see what we can salvage, he said, more to himself than 𝐜𝐴TSUMU. The comments are going to be insufferable this time. Let them be, 𝐜𝐴TSUMU said, leaning back against the headboard. They love you us. 𝐜𝐴TSUMU hesitated, his fingers brushing over the camera. He knew 𝐜𝐴TSUMU was right. Annoyingly enough, their viewers didn't care about perfection or editing tricks. They cared about the messy, unscripted moments, the rawness of it all. With a sigh, 𝐜𝐴TSUMU set the camera down and turned to 𝐜𝐴TSUMU, who was now scrolling lazily through his phone. Fine. I'll leave some of it in, but if the comments get too sappy, it's your fault. 𝐜𝐴TSUMU looked up, flashing a boyish grin. Deal, and hey, next time, maybe I get to blindfold you. 𝐜𝐴TSUMU narrowed his eyes. You'd just use it as an excuse to mess with me. Obviously. 𝐜𝐴TSUMU said, leaning over to kiss him quickly on the lips before standing and stretching. But you'd like it. Get out of my face. 𝐜𝐴TSUMU grumbled, though there was no real venom in his voice. As 𝐜𝐴TSUMU wandered out of the room, likely in search of snacks, 𝐜𝐴TSUMU sat quietly for a moment, staring at the disheveled bed and the chaos they'd created. It was ridiculous, it was messy. And it was them. Shaking his head, he reached for the camera, already imagining the reactions to the video. It didn't matter how embarrassing it was or how much the comments teased them. At the end of the day, it was just another chapter in the ever chaotic, always entertaining story of the two of them. And somehow, that made it all worth it.